What's going on, running fans, jumping fans, throwing fans, all around athletics fans? Welcome to Talking in Ovals. How's everyone doing out there on this Monday, October 17th of 2022? Before we get into all of our fun stuff, like, share, follow, subscribe, rate 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes. Spread this word of mouth. Go find us on Twitter at Talking in Ovals. And I want to do this early, right away, before we get into the show, and we'll repeat it again late. Our guest today might actually help us accomplish this goal. Send us your PRs. We want to hear from you. We want to hear if you had a big PR, if you had a great race, if you did something really, really good that you're proud of. Send us your PR. We want to hear about it. I will remind everyone about that because to this day, Hyatt, we still don't have a damn PR to talk about.
No, and nobody wants to hear about ours. So.
No, because I'm not doing any. Because I'm officially a NARP. I'm officially a non-athletic regular person.
Yeah.
That is officially what I am, and it's not very pretty. So we really need to get that going. But, you know, I actually like pseudo introduced you. Hi, Hyatt. How are you?
Good. How are you? I'm just pumped about these guests we have and curious if they're ever going to play this Yankee game.
They're probably not going to play the Yankee game. And a quick aside, I'm pumped about the Jets, and you have to be pumped about the Giants. We don't talk much football here because we're track, but the guy that we have on today, I think would translate into that sport really well, which he never did, but he would have been a great football player. Anyway, but without further ado, our guest today, he's a former Manchester Hawk, and he forgot to include former Manchester Hawk great. Not just Manchester Hawk. He's one of the great Manchester Hawks to ever walk through. A recent grad from the University of Connecticut and current University of Monmouth sprints and hurdles coach, Jordan Torney. What's up, buddy?
How you guys doing? Glad to be on here.
Doing well. Thank you for coming on. And again, like I said, don't shortchange yourself. Manchester Hawk, great. You're one of the best hurdlers to ever walk through that school, man.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, we had a lot of people, a lot of guys and girls come through Manchester.
Yeah, we have a really, really proud program there. And, you know, it's fortunate that we have a guy like Hyatt who decided to betray his Tom's River roots and come over there for a little bit because, you know, we were able to meet him and have a great coach come there as well. So it's lots of fun. It's lots of fun. And we're going to go back into a little nostalgia and we're going to let you walk down memory road a little bit, Jordan, because, you know, something fun that I think a lot of our guests like to do here, which, you know, we do it every once in a while with our families, and most of our families, you know, we're running geeks. Most people do not care about your running accomplishments. No, most people don't want to hear about you running in circles really fast. But here on Talking in Ovals, that's what we're all about. So let's start from the beginning. You've been running, since you were 11 years old, I guess competitively, 11, 12 years old. You started in middle school. What made you want to start running? What made you sit there, look, and go, that giant thing, because at the age of 11, a track is gigantic. Giant thing looks like something I can conquer. What made you really want to start doing it?
Yeah, so started in 6th grade, and I was a basketball player. I started playing competitive basketball from 1st grade, actually. So it was like, and I was really big into tennis. A lot of people don't know that. Tennis is probably, I'm just as good at tennis as I am at basketball, for people who know I'm good at basketball. Yeah. And tennis wasn't offered in middle school. So I was like, all right, I'm not just going to play one sport, basketball. So we have a really good track team there. So I was like, all right, I'll hop on. At the time, Coach Long was the middle school track coach. Mm-hmm. And I was like, all right, I'll try for that. My family, we have a good tradition with track. Some of my cousins ran at Ryder. My grandfather was really good at track. So I was like, all right, I think I can do this. And really it was because of that. I thought I was pretty fast and the team was really good. So I was like, it'll probably be some fun as well.
So real quick, what was your first time when, you know, you were doing track? And middle school workouts, you know, they're not super hard, but to someone that really has never done it, some of them can be tough. What was the first workout that you had, or did you have any early workouts where you did it and you were just like, man, I made the wrong decision. I don't want to do this anymore. I'm only 11 years old, 12 years old. I'm done here. Did you ever have that moment, or were you kind of locked in and was like, man, this is pretty cool?
Yeah, I was always locked in. It was really the first day. So first day, I came out there with my basketball jersey on, and they called it Coach Lilling. Yeah, basketball shoes too. He called it a perimeter. I never forget this. So it was like every practice, our room was a perimeter.
Yep.
And it was like all the way through like the soccer field at Manchester Middle School, all the way around to like the little park that's next door in Richard Estates. And that was like a long walk for us. And like everyone would run it, even like the distance runners. And I just went straight out in front. It was my first, I'm a sixth grader. That's all I knew. So I just ran out to the front and I just held on for as long as I could. And this is the warm up. and then I obviously died off, but I finished it. And then Loing was just looking like, man, like, who is this kid? Like, this shit is going to be pretty good. I'm surprised he didn't put me into distance running from there. But yeah, I just really like that kind of stuff. I was always just a kid. Like I was really into CrossFit as a kid. So like just like workouts like that, I always found really fun. And yeah, I always loved it.
For anyone that knows Coach Scheffler, he would call that a complex. That's what he always said. Go run a complex. That was the warm up. So that's always what we went by. But yeah, so that's really cool. Hyatt, what do you have for him?
No, I just want to ask you, running in middle school, how much do you think that prepared you for running in high school? And was it because you ran in middle school that you knew that was a sport that you wanted to keep doing in the winter? Or in the high school?
Yeah. So I had a lot of success in middle school. I would run on the AAU track circuit, the Junior Olympics. That's something I started. I ran with Coach Lowing's team from 6th grade to 8th grade. And that was what really sparked my interest with track, because I started getting really good at that. Like you start with like states, then after that it's regionals and nationals. And I think the best I got was like 9th in the country in the 200-meter hurdles in 8th grade. So I was like locked in from there. Like from that point, I was like, track is like my sport, and basketball was more second. And it flip-flopped throughout my whole career. Yeah. But yeah, from that point, I was like, yeah, like I think I'd be really good at track. And that prepared me a lot for high school level, because usually in middle school, it's not as competitive. And then when you get to high school, you get these seniors, these guys are huge, they're strong. And then it's just like, you just get thrown into it. But I was competing with like these top middle schoolers in the country. So I was used to just being in a really competitive environment where it was like pretty serious. And that prepared me a lot for high school.
See, it should. I mean, that is the job of middle school, because I know.
Yeah.
I was coaching at the high school, I think, when you were in middle school, but I started off in the middle school and then I went back to the middle school afterwards. And my whole job was to get every athlete that I coached to like the sport and to get to a point where they understood how to compete, so that when they got to high school, they could just keep growing in their maturation and in their athletic.
Another thing that really helped me was I was never the fastest person on the team. I might have been like the best hurdler or like the best jumper. But even through all the way to my senior year of high school, I was never the fastest. We had Michael Rosario. Michael
Rosario drives me insane. I love Michael. Drives me insane.
Johnny Pope,
yep.
Samir Friesen. There was always guys that were always either better. I was never the best in like all the events that I did, or the fastest, because Michael was probably always faster than me. And that really helped me. And that prepared me for college too, because a lot of guys are like the best in their thing. And then they get to college and they're like, wait, I'm like the third best guy on the team.
And they can't handle
it. Everyone's a county champion, conference champion, state champion, state competitor. And you went to a pretty high level at UConn. You were D1, and they have a good program there. Yeah. So I want to stick with kind of high school stuff, because you jump into high school, you already have a lot of the success in middle school. You understand what it is to be competitive in track. Come high school, though, you're a two-sport athlete. You are still playing basketball. You're running track. You're having success in both, because you're a fantastic basketball player. And you were somebody who, anyone that's ever coached you, myself, Hyatt, you're a pleasure to coach. And you always were, because you were extremely talented, but you were also very humble with how you worked. You just put your head down, didn't say much. This is probably the most I've ever heard you talk.
Yeah.
But, you didn't say much, and you just went to work. You were very serious about your craft. You wanted to get better. And that was you in basketball too. You would run down, bang the dunk down, kind of smile, and then run back and play defense. Like, you were not the type to ever really showboat. And I think that really helped you in your competitive edge and was able to lock you in because you weren't really worried about the other stuff. Now, you went into basketball, you did track freshman through senior year. Was there ever a time where winter's coming, the meetings are coming, and you're thinking, man, I might have to go tell Ramsey I got to do indoor? Like, is there ever a thought in your mind saying, like, I know I love basketball, but I'm doing so good in track that I should do extra track? Or were you always like, I'm doing basketball and track, I don't care what anybody says?
Yeah, I never thought about that because I always flip-flop back and forth between what I thought my better sport was. Like coming out of middle school, I thought I was better at track. And then the start of my freshman year, I was starting on varsity for basketball. So I was like, oh, I guess maybe it's maybe basketball now. And basketball is more fun. You know, you got the crowd and like all that stuff, and like people understand it more. It's less harder work than like running track.
Don't tell basketball players that. Don't tell basketball players that. They'll fight you on that.
But yeah, and then I knew I could compensate with it because I was always running Junior Olympics and AAU track in the summertime.
Okay.
So I was like, as long as I get in good shape by the time like around counties come, then I'll have like I have a chance to PR all the way through like meet of champs, and then I have a whole nother season of the Junior Olympics. So I was never worried about like not reaching like my peak each season because I essentially had like 2 outdoor seasons, and people just had like an indoor and outdoor.
So are you in the Hall of Fame yet for Manchester? Real quick, are you in the Hall of Fame?
No, actually, I just heard about that.
Hey, Lister, what are you doing? What are you doing? Listen, here's the thing. I'm not going to toot my own horn. I think I should be there, but man, Jordan Torney deserves to be there yesterday. What are we doing?
I think I'm just now eligible.
You should have been eligible the day you retired. Stop with this eligibility nonsense. I hate that you have to wait.
It's like that every sport. It's like that every sport.
It's a clown show. The fact that you like weren't just like, your name kind of like there in like a shadow, and then we can finally fill it in when you're eligible. Come on now. What are we doing, Lister?
Me and Shavar got to get in for my year.
Without a doubt. Without a doubt.
So Jordan, you finished basketball. Did you ever feel that you were a little bit behind the 8 ball on track to maybe people who you competed against who did the winter season? Or did you always feel that because you were, staying in shape and, working out, that you were able to pick up right where you left off?
Yeah. I mean, so my senior year, I played it smart. I did cross country training.
Yep. And
then I went into basketball, and then I went into outdoor track. But the years before that, in the fall, I would just play basketball every day at the park, at the 6F park, like literally every day. Like guys would probably laugh at that. Like I would just go home from school and just head to the park, and I would be there for like 5 hours just playing basketball. And
I'm pretty sure you were there with me and my brother and his group a few times. Yep. We all went down and played. I remember going down there, and my brother would be like, "We're trying to go play." Jordan's there. Everyone always knew you were there. Everyone.
Why do I have this incredible vision now of Jordan just dunking right over you, and I'm smiling from ear to ear?
He was nice to me. He was nice. Okay.
Yeah. But yeah, I don't know. I never was like out of shape. Like, cause there's a huge difference between like basketball shape and track shape.
Yeah.
But I always felt like, although I never really did track training, through like the winter season, I just picked it up pretty fast. I don't know. Even with like the weight training, there was no weightlifting I was doing during basketball season. I just like kind of hopped in, and we had like a good two-week training camp, and then we got into the dual meets. Yep. And I would just hop in and just go. I don't know.
Well, what's also good is, since you were obviously on a state caliber level, you can use those dual meets to do 3 or 4 different events, and that'll help you work to get into shape. One thing that I'm curious about is, because you hurdled and you ran and you jumped, what was it like having to go from maybe Coach Griff for part of practice to Coach Chef for part of practice? Like, how did everybody make sure that worked and that you got everything that you needed in each aspect?
It's kind of just like making a schedule. Like, all right, like here's like today's our workout days. Today, like we'll do like hurdle and long jump. Coach Chef, actually, he has like actually both coaches have similar like views on track, like how my college coaches do, which is like we use like we weren't doing a lot of jumping in practice, so that saved my body a lot. So I was able to be fresh for like the workouts and stuff. It was also more just my approach. So like with long jump and triple, I just worked my approach and like I built it really nice. So my approach was really good. And then from there, I just had to just jump, and like those are like easy things you can like fix it over time. But if you're consistent on the board, that's like the most important thing.
Absolutely.
And then so that wasn't really, it was a pretty smooth transition. During the meets was tough. I'll say that my parents always recorded everything I did in high school. So it's kind of funny. They were working as hard as I was.
Oh yeah, because sometimes the long jump pits are a mile from the actual track, and then it's a lot on parents who have kids who do multi. Yeah,
for sure. So they were running all over the place.
But they were loving every second of it, I'm sure.
Definitely were. So with both sports, I'm curious. You had a lot of success in basketball. If I'm not mistaken, you're one of our 1,000-point scorers. Am I correct?
Yeah.
You had some pretty good teams. You guys went pretty far. You also were on some really good track teams. You had a lot of success individually and as a team. Which one was kind of more rewarding? Was it more rewarding to kind of win with that team in basketball and get to do those individual accomplishments, but knowing it was with the guys around you? Or was it, better to have that individual accomplishment where you're winning in the triple? That's you. You're winning in the hurdles. That's all you. They're obviously different, but which one would you say is kind of a better overall feeling? And you don't have to say track because we're on a track podcast, so you could be honest.
It's definitely track, because like with track, you can track. With track, you can track.
You could track and track. Use that as a coach. You'll work.
With track, you can like track your progress too. From like, I'll say like from my freshman year, I'll be like, man, like my goal was just to make the meet of champs. And then like as a senior, my goal was to like medal at the meet of champs and stuff like that. So you can just clearly see like, you're like, wow, like look how much progress I made from just a 4-year span.
Yeah.
So I'll say that's like the more rewarding one. Also on like relays, even like a Ocean County meet or like a dual meet, there's just like something different, like winning like a 4x4 or like even a 4x1, because
relays are the best.
Yeah, everything has to be in sync. Like if one person's off, then it's gone. For like in basketball, like the star player can have a bad game, but you guys can still win.
Yep.
But yeah, I would say it's track, but basketball is definitely fun. Like when we beat Lakewood, like that was the most rewarding thing. That's probably one of the most rewarding things ever.
Always.
Because that was like, I felt like it was almost impossible at times to beat them.
Well, the thing that people don't get, so Manchester versus Lakewood rivalry in basketball is probably one of the most fierce in all New Jersey. I'll go out there, and I feel like a lot of it is because you guys are very close. You know all those guys. Like you're all friends. You guys compete all the time outside. We go to the same like Gold's Gym and go to the same YMCA. Like, and you guys know those guys really well, and you're friends with a lot of those guys. It's not just like, oh, we've gotten soft sports friends thing. Like you guys are friends outside well before you compete against each other. So there's a different dynamic for Manchester Lakewood basketball rivalry. It's kind of like the Manchester Mondon track rivalry, and it will always be Mondon. Donovan Catholic doesn't count. They're not a place. It's Monsignor Donovan. But I'm going to get in trouble for that one. But so break down for me, what are some of your best memories of competing in middle school and high school? What do you like look back at now and say like, man, that was amazing? Like what is stuck in your head?
So for middle school, it'll definitely be like just learning the events and having success. Like, so like 6th grade, I was thrown into a lot of events. And we had Twiggy. You guys remember Twiggy, the hurdler?
Ariana Wilson.
Yep. Yeah, Ariana Wilson. There we go. That's her name. Yep.
I coached her for all 3 years of her middle school.
Yeah.
Nice.
So she was like the first person to teach me hurdles. So that helped a lot. Like, just like remember those things, like starting off, like how bad I was. But
you're like 3-step. You're like, I can't even 8-step.
Yeah. And then getting
rhythm,
to like,
I'm just trying to get over it.
Yeah.
Jumping about 10 feet over each hurdle.
Oh gosh, yeah, I was jumping over those things
like Mario. Anyway.
Yeah. And then like getting into like 8th grade, like where I got like I got really good. Like I said, like I was 9th in the country. So like traveling for those meets, like nationals was at Morgan State. I went to a lot of different places that like I'd never been to before for track. So that was really fun on like the middle school side. High school, there's Penn relays. That's always a fun experience in high school. The series of like meet of champs and all that stuff, like the state meets, those are always really fun. And then even like the sectional meets. I remember my senior year, I was trying to be the first person to win 4 events at shore conferences. I won 4 at Ocean Counties, and I was trying to do it at shore conferences. And it's funny, there's a guy from CBA, his name's Tim Jackatu, and he beat me in the 400 hurdles, but I PR'd, so I was happy with it. And then it's funny, now he's our graduate assistant coach at Monmouth.
That's really
cool. I was joking.
Yeah,
we joke around about it a lot.
It's like you find yourself in like, guys, when you're trying to do something special like that, other teams get wind of those types of things. Like it travels for some way, it travels. And then they'll sit there, but they'll also start to target. Like, I was going to double, but I know Torney's trying to go for this. I'm only going to go for that race. So I could try, like, there's like a certain pride in wanting to beat the guy that's going for something special or the girl that's going for something special. So, you're a unique case, and Hyatt, you'll agree with me on this. There's not many freshmen that walk into high school where their goal is to make meet of champs. Your goal when you're walking into high school is maybe I'll be good enough to get on varsity and do something at counties if I'm lucky and win a frost soft meet here or there.
Listen, the majority of the freshmen, they don't even know that we don't really cut and track. They just want to try to make the actual team. And then when they find out that there are no cuts, like, oh, Mom, I made the team. Like, oh, no cuts, but awesome, So that's what's great about track is that it's a sport where everyone is inclusive. Your top guy to your bottom guy, and there's a spot for everyone. That's why I love to coach it.
We got to ask him our favorite question, Hyatt, and this is yours about meet of champs and the athletes that competed in it. This is your question.
All right. Yeah. So everyone who we have on, we ask. I don't know if you've heard, but there's a lot of talk to take away the meet of champions in New Jersey. Because they feel that other sports don't have it, but it's unique in track that you don't, it's an individual thing. And what are your thoughts on the that they might actually get rid of this amazing meet that we've had for all these years?
Yeah, I heard you guys talking about this on the podcast with Janae, and that's just crazy. Because I went to college in Connecticut, and like when I got there, we have guys coming from all across the country. And we would talk about like the Jersey guys would talk about meet of champs, and they're like, "Oh, that was your like state meet? We thought that was like a big like invitational, like a big event thing, like people coming from multiple states." And it's just such a historic like meet where you get all those big rivalries and like you get the claims of like, oh, best in the state, best in Jersey, and like as Jersey being like a top 3 track state, it would be like, I don't know, it's just kind of crazy that they would like take away like the meat that like makes everything famous for our state, which is kind of weird.
Absolutely, because most states, they pretty much end at the group level, so you really don't know who's the best. That's what's great about Jersey is, like I'm the best in this event in this year, and it's one of my favorite meets every year. And if it goes away, I'll be sad for all those future athletes who never had a chance to participate.
And for recruiting too. Now
I was just going to say for recruiting, it's huge.
Yeah.
Look at him putting his coach's hat on now.
Yeah. It's big because if you have that star coming in and they can not shit the bed and win their race, if it's a tactical race or something like that, that shows a lot of colleges how good you could do. Or if you have a gigantic PR and you were coming in the back and you might have not won. So it would be a travesty if they get rid of it. We're going to continue to sound the horn on trying to get, people that competed in it and things like that, to really try and put their voice out. Maybe Hyatt, I'll cut and I'll put together a compilation when we get enough. And I can kind of send it to NJSAA and be like, here, these are a bunch of people that have competed in the event and coached it and what they think about it, because it's terrible what they're trying to do. But let's go to some more happy, positive, but maybe not happy things, because I don't think me and Hyatt understand where your brain went when you went to Connecticut. Because for whatever reason, you went from being a really good hurdler, a really good jumper, and then you decided, I just want to add a little bit of everything track has to offer and just go hurt myself all the time. Like, you became a decathlete going into UConn when you went to UConn. So first off, I want to talk about, what was that decision like when you sat down with coach? Did they recruit you to be a decathlete? Is that something, a decision you made together? And you were not a big dude. You were skinny. No. And even like, you've never been like, you were tall, you were lanky, it helped with your hurdlers, but you were always explosive. So it's not like it never took away from you. So what was that decision? Like, how did that come about at UConn?
Yeah. So my junior year, I was at the Junior Olympics. It was at North Carolina, Greensboro. And we were just sitting there watching. Me and Logan were sitting there watching. And the decathletes were going on. And I was like, man, like, and that was the same time when Ashton Eaton was like breaking the world record. So
greatest athlete of all time.
Yeah. So he shined like a lot of light onto it. And I was like, man, like, I feel like I can do this. Like, it's that same like mentality, I was a 400 hurdler. So like those kind of people would be attracted to it. And I was like, man, like, crazy. Yeah. I was like, I really think I could do this. And he was like, okay, like we can like kind of train for it a little bit. Like he just taught me like a little bit of shot put. Like we never really had more than like 2 or 3 practices, but he was like, I think you can like be good at it. So he told me to like, it was more like just emailing schools. So I emailed a lot of schools. I only emailed schools that I could picture myself going to. But it was a lot of them though. And I emailed them and I was like, I'm interested in being like a decathlete. And I can like see myself being there. So I had schools that were recruiting me just for being a hurdler and jumper. And then there were schools like Monmouth was just hurdle and jumper, Rutgers, hurdle, jumper. Then like UConn. UConn has a big history with decathletes.
Absolutely.
So they saw that and they actually gave me like the biggest scholarship out of all the schools, which I was surprised about.
Did that turn schools off? When you said, I'm not interested in specializing, but I want to be a decathlete, did that turn some schools off from you in terms of, okay, we're not on the same page here type of deal?
No, it was all the schools that reached out to me. I was like, I wasn't made my decision on being a decathlete. Like if I was more like whatever school I went to, I was just going to be what they wanted me to be.
Yeah.
So like if I went to Monmouth, actually UConn was the only one I was really in it that was going to be a decathlete at. Like if I went to Rutgers or if I went to Monmouth or Rhode Island, those are like my final 5 schools, I wouldn't be a decathlete. So really it just came down to UConn. If they weren't interested in me, I would have never been a decathlete, which is crazy.
Was UConn still in the Big East then, or were they in the American?
No, that was their second year in the American.
Gotcha. Because when I was in college at Rutgers and UConn were both in the Big East.
Oh, okay. Yeah. That was when the Big East was crazy. You guys had like Miami in there, right?
Miami was in there.
Yeah.
I remember like, the Big East meet was at Rutgers. And I was watching Santana Moss jump like 26 feet, like right here in New Jersey on our track.
Why would they ever let the Big East meet be at freaking Rutgers in that wind tunnel of a track that is there? Because I have never had a good race at Rutgers University in my life because there is no such thing as a PR on that track. It is always windy.
Don't mess with the Bauer Track and Field Complex.
So you're there. You decide to become a decathlete. You go there, you commit to UConn.
Yeah.
What does the work become now? Because it's very different than I think anything. I can't imagine it. I don't know if you can, Hyatt, but you mentioned that you used to enjoy doing CrossFit. So did that mentality kind of kick in with you? Like, okay, I'm going to have to do a whole lot of stuff. Did your background in enjoying CrossFit help you with the training in decathlon?
Yeah, 100%. So when I got there, the training started right away. So what UConn likes to do when they bring in a decathlete, they like to bring in another guy to like train with them. So like we usually brought in like 2 guys a year in my first couple of years. And we had 2 older guys than me that are decathletes that are pretty good. So I was able to just learn from them and stuff like that. But like, I remember like so like how UConn does it, like, I don't think anyone else does it like this. So like the first practice, the whole team runs a mile and the throwers, they run an all out 400 first practice.
Love it.
And I was always fit, but I never had distance running experience. Like the farthest I would run is a 600 in practice. But over the summer I was doing like distance running and stuff like that. So I did good in a mile. But it was kind of funny because it's like just like that same, like that first practice when I was in 6th grade when we did that perimeter and I just went to the front. I did the same exact thing and I died out. And I was like in 3rd place on the whole team with like 200 meters to go. And I finished like like in the middle of the pack. But the coaches like that. They're like, hey,
The last 200.
Yeah.
A little bit different when it's a bunch of grown men too that you're running against that do this all the time.
Sure. But like the training, it was I actually never really had to gain weight. I was about 175 going in, and I finished at 180. Like now I'm 180. And I don't know. I was just always, like I said, like I was very explosive. I was strong because I always did the weightlifting. And before I got to college, Griff made sure that he showed me like how to clean, hand clean, snatch, clean and jerk, like all that stuff. So I worked that. So when I got to college, I already knew how to do that stuff. And yeah, it was pretty smooth transition. The biggest thing was just learning the events. I had to learn shot put. I had to learn high jump. I had to learn pole vault. I had to learn, javelin, discus. Yeah, it was basically I had to learn how to run a mile.
1500.
I had to learn how to run the 100. I was fast, but I never ran the 100. Never really ran the 400 besides the 400 hurdles, and that's different. So there's just like basically I had to learn every event except for like, and then the 110 hurdles, which is my event, the hurdles get higher.
Oh yeah.
So
college height. Yep.
Yeah.
I basically was like, I don't know anything besides long jump.
So for those that don't know, I'll just break it down real quick. If you're listening to the show, you probably do know, but for those that don't, decathlon is you run a 100, you run a 400, 110 hurdles, 1500 meter. That's all on the track. Then you have long jump, shot, high jump, discus, pole vault, jav. So you quite literally are covering the whole gauntlet. Jordan, I can't wait till they just add steeplechase for good measure. Like, I feel like they're just going to take away something and just be like, just run a steeple. Might as well add the cross country on the track here. Why not?
And if you don't know, everyone who's listening, that is over 2 separate back-to-back days. It's not all in one day, just to clarify.
Yeah.
So real quick, also for other people that don't know, kind of explain the scoring system, because it's a different type of thing. It's not just winning events and type of deal. There's a scoring system, and it's kind of like, you have a high water mark and you can only go down from there type.
I believe it's based off the world record in like each event or something.
Yeah, it's based off the world record at the time when the decathlon was created. So, like the world record is probably around like 10-1 or so, like 10 seconds in the 100 when the decathlon was created. So like the barrier would be like 1,000 points. But like now there's guys in the decathlon running faster than like 10-1. So they get over 1,000 points. So if you see someone get over 1,000 points, that means they ran faster than what the world record was at the time when the decathlon was created.
Which I'm sure... I'm sorry. There's probably many events where almost everyone does better. Pole vault maybe because the technology.
Yeah, maybe the pole vault.
So much.
Yeah, I think it'll be the pole vault. 400. I think it's 400 in pole vault. High jump. So, but yeah, it's basically like, so scoring is like there's a table and it shows you like what the number is. So say like for the 400, say you run like 47 seconds in a 400, that would equate to like 900 points. So you're just you're competing against a table of points, and you just want to score as many points as you can throughout the 10 events. And then whoever has the most win.
Yeah. And essentially perfect is a 10,000, right? That's kind of a perfect. And then you had, guys like Ashton Eaton and stuff that break the 9,000 barrier, which is absolutely stupid to go. And not like, it is so difficult to do. And you guys, I give you credit because you guys are superhumans to be able to do what you guys did, and what you do. It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. Yeah. And people need to. And I think one of the things you said you want to come in here is to kind of shine some light on just decathletes are the best athletes in the world. And it really isn't close. It really isn't. Kind of brag about yourself a little bit. Talk about just, do you agree that you guys are the best athletes on the planet?
Yeah, it's actually something funny we always talked about on the team. I made a list like last year of like top 10 athletes ever. It was like Bo Jackson I threw in there, like Jim Thorpe, Ashton Eaton, guys like that. And we like made a list, and some people would be like, well, people who know track knew who Ashton Eaton was, but like some people were like, "Who's Ashton Eaton?" Like people who weren't like in the track world.
Who's Jim Thorpe?
Yeah.
Thorpe. Yeah. It's ridiculous. So I have another thing I have to ask you. Why do women run the hep? Why do they not run the decathlon? Do they ever give a reason why? Like, do you know anything? Like I don't know the history of why women just don't run a decathlon.
I don't know. It could be tied into like, remember like when they were saying like women couldn't run a marathon, like it would be like too hard on their body. Yeah. I think it's probably like a similar reason like that. But nowadays, obviously they can, and they should, because there's a lot of women now that are pole vaulters and they want to do the hep. Even on our team at Monmouth now, we have 2 of them that are pole vaulters and they do the hep. So it's just like now they have to do, instead of just doing the hep, now they have to do the hep and the pole vault.
Yeah, we got to upgrade that. It just needs to be upgraded at this point. Women are so good at the sport. There's no reason to just make them only do a hep. I always thought that was stupid.
What event did you find to be the hardest to learn? My guess would be pole vault, but I mean, maybe it was something else for you.
No, for me, pole vault came pretty natural.
Wow.
Because I was very fast, and we had a lot of great pole vaulters on the team. Craig Hunter, he was a 1710 pole vaulter. He helped me a lot. And obviously our coach is very good. So I learned that pretty naturally. I understood the basics pretty well, like pretty quickly. It's actually javelin was the hardest. Javelin and high jump were the ones I struggled with the most. It's just javelin is just very, very technical. I don't know. I just struggled. I never really had a throwing background. Like if I played, like I never played baseball like that. I played football, like not super competitively, but like for fun.
Yeah.
And I was never the quarterback. I always be like the wide receiver. So I never really had a pure throwing background. So I struggled with that. I didn't really get good at it until like this year, but it was still my worst event technically.
I remember when I was in high school, we had like the big star-stud football player. And our best javelin thrower was this like skinny kid, but his technique was on point. Like everything was straight. And he challenged the quarterback in the jab, and he whooped him. And it was the coolest thing I've ever seen because
awesome.
he knew how to throw it. And he was throwing it like it was a football, and it's completely different motion.
Yeah, it's extremely technical event. Same with the high jump too. Like I could jump pretty high, but it's just so many factors that go into it. And when you're doing the decathlon, you don't really have too much time to practice each event.
Yeah.
So those 2 took me the longest to get good at.
So let's dive into your final year at UConn. You're someone you talked about. You used to having national expectations. Like that's kind of how you went through your track life. You've always expected yourself to be at a national level. Now, here you are, final year at UConn, and if you're in a national level in college, you're one of the best athletes on the planet. Like that's just, there's a very small group, and the college athletes are in there. What was that like coming into senior year with kind of the expectation of, I'm someone that's going to be on the national stage in this event? And did it get tough to kind of live up to it? Were there moments your senior year where you're having some meets and you're just like, damn, this is getting like, this might not be going too well? Or was it always, we have a goal, full steam ahead, I'm going to get to nationals, I'm going to compete?
No, I always loved that. Like, I'm someone that, although I was like really quiet and stuff like that, I love the spotlight, like the biggest meet possible, like the Armory. Like I wanted all eyes on me. I'm not gonna lie. Nice. I love that stuff. Yeah. But like giving it like a breakdown. So I did 6 years at UConn. Mm-hmm. I redshirted my outdoor freshman year. And then I redshirted again just so I can get the 5th year. And then COVID gave us all an extra season. So I was able to do that as well. So like going through like my college career, so like freshman year, I did good. I had to learn the events, redshirted outdoors. Sophomore year, I had a lot of success. And then junior year was when I broke out and I had like a huge improvement. I scored like 7,200 in the decathlon, and it only takes like 74 to make nationals. So that was my junior year academically, but I was a sophomore athletically. And then, so I was like really pumped with that. And then the next year was when COVID hit. So I never got a chance to capitalize off of that at that time. So we're just training for like another year. And then fast forward to my 5th year is when I made nationals. Mm-hmm. And like the toughest thing with the decathlon is that you only get really one good chance a year to do it. It's kind of like the marathon. So you get like an early season decathlon, but that's more like you do it just to see what you need to work on. And then it all comes down to conference. So I can like take you through that. So our conference meet my 5th year was at Geneva, Ohio, and at Spire Academy. And that was when we moved back to the Big East. That was our first year in the Big East.
Mm-hmm.
And man, it was just like, it was beautiful weather both days. It was hot. And like everything was just rolling. So like 100's the first event. I go out there. I think I PR'd in that. Long jump, I PR'd again. And I went crazy. That was my first time jumping over 24 feet. Shot put was like right at my PR. So then everyone's like, they're like, you're starting to see, it's like, okay, like, hey, he has a chance to make nationals now. And that's when the pressure starts rolling up. It's about when those first 3 events go good, and then you get to high jump. And high jump is like anything can really happen. Like You're starting to get a little tired. That's like the most important event for me. And I PR'd in that one as well. So it's like, geez, like, all right, you're sitting around, you get 30 minutes in between each event for everyone that doesn't know. So after that high jump, you have the 400. So that's like when the butterflies start getting in your stomach and you're like, oh man, I gotta go. For me, I never really stressed too much about the 400 because that was always my event. For me, I really stressed more in like the high jump and stuff like that. But in the 400, I was like, you know what? Like, I just gotta get out and go. Like, this is what I do. I usually won the 400. So I went out there, did my thing. I did pretty good in that. And then like afterwards, you're cramping up. You have a headache because you've been out competing for like 6 hours in the sun.
Yep.
Come back and do it again tomorrow.
Yeah. And like everyone's trying to talk to you like, hey, how's it going? How's it going? How's it going? And you're like, it's good. They're like, you're on track. You're on track. Like, are you on track for national? I'm like, yep, it's good. Like,
I'm in pain. Leave me alone.
Yeah. And then like while all this is still going on, you're still competing. Like you're trying to win the meet. So it's just like so much going on. So like the battle, like with the decathlon is more like, it's so tough. You have the mental side where you're competing. And if something goes wrong, you have 9 more events that you still have to go on. Like, I'm glad that never really happened to me where like I just messed up huge in the beginning of an event, of the beginning of the meet.
Yeah.
And like had to like suffer through like the next 9 events knowing that I'm not going to have a chance to PR. And then there's obviously the physical side, which is like you're competing for like, I don't know, like 9 hours between both days. So it's just so tough. Like, oh man, like that's, it's brutal. And then like when you sleep, so like after the first day, you just I always like to get 2 meals in. I was like, after I finish around, like, we finish around like 4 o'clock. I was like, I want 2 meals in and I'm gonna go to bed. And then when you wake up, it feels like you slept for like 20 minutes. No matter how early, you can get 10 hours of sleep. It feels like you slept for 20 minutes and your body is just so stiff. Like it's insane. Your body's so stiff and it's always early. You have to wake up at like 6 a.m. because they put the decathlon first.
Yep.
And then you have the 110 hurdles and you're just stiff for that. Get through that. There's the discus, the pole vault. Pole vault is where it's most tough mentally because you're exhausted, but you have to, like, it's a dangerous event. You have to really focus. And then the javelin's pretty easy. It's just easy on your body, but it's all mental for that event. And you just got to suck it up for that mile. The mile is tough.
You make it sound really, really appealing and appetizing to any young athletes that are looking and thinking of doing this. They're probably thinking about like, I'm just going to become a marathoner. That sounds easy. Yeah. Like,
hey, that's how it is. It's not meant for everyone. It's definitely not meant for everyone. Because
no
that mile going
glasses
into
there,
it,
man. No rose-colored glasses.
Yeah, because everyone's always like, "Oh, what's your mile PR?" And I tell them because we don't run the mile outside of the decathlon.
Yeah.
And they're like, "Oh, okay, that's like okay, like solid." I'm like, "But that's the 10th event for us. We're already cramping halfway through." If you ever see like our races, my teammate Ben, he always cramps up. Like he's literally like punching his thigh, like as he's running the mile. Like he's in so much pain. Oh my gosh! But I'll tell you this to finish that: when you cross the line of a decathlon, oh my gosh, there's nothing like it. It's the biggest relief I've ever felt in my life. like you crossed the line and you just always laid down on the ground. And it was just like, oh, like I did it. Like, it's just so much relief from like, you're done competing. You finished it was like the most important thing. If you PR'd, you have like the achievement of like PRing, like just making it through all those events. And that was like my major thing, like my freshman year. I was like, man, I can't believe like I actually finished the decathlon. Like, I can't believe I did it, which is really cool.
That is by far one of my favorite scenes in the World Championships or in the Olympics is at the end of the decathlon. It doesn't matter if you win, you get last, the camaraderie between everyone there.
Yeah.
Like we did this. It's really, really cool. You don't see that a lot in other events. Like everyone who finishes you respect them so much for just being able to do that over 24, actually it probably is like almost 24 hours,
Yeah. And at the big meets, you get to take a victory lap. So like when I was at nationals, I got to take a victory lap at Oregon Field. At Hayward Field.
Cool.
Hayward Field, that's
Are you still friends with a lot of the guys you competed against? Not even with, like, are you guys still all close? Because it is a select group that actually does and competes and finishes decathlons consistently. Are you still friendly with a lot of those guys?
Yeah. So like I'm not a person that's like I don't have social media. I just downloaded Facebook so I can watch Ball in the Family. If you guys know that show. But yeah, like anyone like I always try to keep in contact with. A lot of the guys are actually foreign. Like when I went to nationals, about half the field was international people, which is really cool. And yeah, I try to keep in contact with as much as possible and just seeing their journey, because a lot of them are pro now, like Kyle Garland, what's his name? Oh man, the guy from Arkansas who won. Oh, I forget his name. Jeez.
I'm losing.
It's okay.
We're back.
Yeah,
job, Hyatt.
Yeah, that guy was really cool.
So when you finished college, you compete at nationals. You were probably at that point where you were good enough to maybe keep going in the decathlon. What was your choice there? Like, how did you decide I'm going to keep training for it, or maybe it's time to start that next chapter in life?
Yeah, that's something that was my goal. Definitely, like during COVID, I thought about that a lot. Was like going pro versus coaching, because I knew that was my two options. Was either I was going to coach college or I was going to go pro. And my roommate was in a similar boat. So my roommate, he runs now for on running club in North Carolina.
Nice.
He's a distance runner. Eric Vander. I'll give Eric Vanderels a shout out there.
Come on the show, Eric.
Yeah.
Listen, we tend to
have everyone. We want anyone and everyone. Bring them on.
Yeah, I saw Mike Rhett was on.
Yeah. He was our second episode ever. Yeah.
Yep.
So with distance running and versus like the decathlon, there's not a lot of options with the decathlon. There's not a lot of big groups going on. So like the money would be lower. Especially at my level, I wasn't like the top in the country. There's guys who went pro that had lesser scores than me, but it's a tough journey for the decathlon. Even like guys who are making the Olympics are still struggling just to finance their training. So that definitely played a big role. And also I felt like I reached, like, I was really happy with what I did. Like I felt like I got the best out of what I can do. Like, I feel like I could score like a little bit higher, but I was like, I put like my decathlon I did, I was like, it was a great day. Like, I don't think I could do too much better than what I did. So I was like, I think I'm ready to move on and go into coaching.
Does that give you a nice chip on your shoulder walking around going, you know what? I know I could have been a pro. Like, I chose not to be a pro athlete. Like, I certainly was good enough to be a pro. Not many people could say that. There's a lot of people that say like, well, I think I was good enough to eventually, but no, you were literally, if you wanted to turn pro, there was a coach and there was a team that would have welcomed you. Like, that's not a question. Like, is that a cool chip on your shoulder to walk around with? Like, yeah, man, I could have been a pro athlete if I wanted to. I chose that. I was too good for that.
Yeah, I guess. Yeah, a lot of people ask me about that. That's probably like the core part. I was like, oh, you ever thinking about going pro? Like, I feel like you can go pro. I was like, yeah, I guess. It's more like just like a relief that I know I got the best out of what I can do.
Awesome.
Especially with the decathlon. Like there's a lot of decathletes that just didn't reach their potential because like even stuff that could be out of their control. Like if it was like it started raining, like when they're like on track for PR, like stuff like that. So it's more like a relief thing for me. That's like, man, like I did the best I could and I achieved it.
So many factors,
Injuries,
Yeah.
I can imagine.
Yeah, injuries
so
as
bad
well.
with
Yeah.
the athletes. You guys destroy your bodies. So
I never got injured.
That's awesome. I
never had an injury in my athletic career.
That's amazing.
Even dating back to like middle school.
So when you make that a choice, talk to us about the process of going into coaching, how you ended up at Monmouth where you are now. Just kind of take us through that whole process, because I'm sure any program would want to have someone with your knowledge who's been through those things, who's still young, who can maybe actually get out there and show these kids how to actually do it. Like a coach like me, I'm not running a 5K.
I know he's out there on the track now, still doing hurdle workouts. He certainly goes out there and shows them.
Listen, I give Griff credit, and Griff was always in great shape. Like the best thing I loved about Griff was he never told anybody to go in the weight room, and he wasn't in there himself. And I think that's such a positive thing for athletes to see.
On that, all my coaches that I've always had were always like that. Like they were able to just demonstrate the drill or something like that. That definitely helped me a lot in my college career. But with like getting into coaching, so I known I wanted to get into coaching for like around like 2-3 years now. And so at UConn, we have our coaching alum is like very impressive. Like we have coaches at Wisconsin, Alabama, UNLV, I think LSU, Arkansas, Tulsa.
Wow.
Like we have a lot of coaches and a lot of like big schools. So I was like, then Coach Roy, who was the director at UConn for a long time, he just retired this past year. So he helped me out, and he was like, he basically put me in contact. He put me in contact with the Virginia Tech coach and the Alabama coach. Those are 2 UConn alums. And just like basically like kind of guide me through like what I should do, like certifications you can get, like what websites to even find a coaching opportunity. Cause like I was like, where do you even find, like, how do I even apply for a college coach?
Yeah.
And just stuff like that. Like how I can basically like transition from the athlete to the coaching side. So the journey with getting to Monmouth, I just reached out and I was like, I'm from the area. I live in Ocean County. And I'd like to volunteer at Monmouth for like a year and like just learn under your coaches and stuff like that. So then in the process of that, I was also still applying to a lot of jobs. And it was like around June, coach brought me in to meet with him and like see how things are going, like look at the campus and stuff like that. And then around that time, I started getting a lot of like interest and offers from schools. And I was actually really surprised because usually like you have to like volunteer or like be a graduate assistant for like a year or two before you can get like a full-time job. But people were just like interested in my decathlon perspective because like I'm able to coach, like I can coach like the throws, the distance, the jumps, sprints, hurdles, and the multis and pole vault. So that definitely helped me get like a lot of jobs. And then like around like July, the Monmouth sprint coach, she resigned. And so I already had that relationship with their coach because I was going to volunteer. And then so I just applied for that job and I went through that interview process. And yeah, that interview process was tough for like all these jobs. Like basically my whole summer, I was just applying and having interviews over the phone. Like I was talking to a school in Louisiana, like Nicholls State, like everywhere, Villanova, New York schools. Like I could have ended up anywhere. It's kind of funny that I ended up with the school closest to me.
Yeah, not bad.
But that was definitely my best opportunity.
Was the proximity of Monmouth kind of, since you grew up here, was that appealing?
Yeah, it was appealing. Really more for the volunteer perspective. If I was going to be a volunteer. But But once I that was the job. Like once I saw she resigned and I was able to interview for the head sprints and hurdles coach, like no matter what, like I was taking like that job if it was offered to me, because it was close, but like also the program is very good.
Yeah.
Yeah. You entered into a hell of a program. See, I'm a Marist guy, Marist College, and they just came in, beat the ever-loving shit out of the MAC for every single year they were there, looked at the MAC and was like, we don't need you anymore, and left everybody in shambles, because Monmouth is an unbelievable program. Like you walked into obviously you earned your way there, you worked your tail off and interviewed, but man, that's a good program you have there, man. They have a great name around the country right now.
As long as you get those kids from Jersey to stay in Jersey, you're going to be great every year. It's such a great track powerhouse.
Yeah, that's the one thing I noticed even at UConn. Like Connecticut is more like they're really good at distance running, and like most of our like sprinters and jumpers will come from Jersey. And then I was like, now that I'm at Monmouth, I'm like, man, we just gotta control the state. We still compete with like Rutgers and Princeton.
Yeah,
and then like the PA schools like Penn State and like UPenn and stuff like that. But
I know the Rutgers coach as well, and like they're really doing a great job there, keeping kids from in-state, getting transfers. Like if you keep kids from this state, you're going to have a great team every single year.
Yeah, for sure.
So have you coached any meets there yet? How long have you been at Monmouth for?
Just since like September. So I graduated college in May. And then I got back down here and I applied for schools this whole summer.
So you have to, we're going to have you back on a little bit, because you have to come back and talk to me and Coach Hyatt about what it's like being on the other side, because, all of us, we all competed in college. We all competed at a pretty high level. And I'd say it's comparable and probably worse and more nerve-wracking on the coaching side, watching your athletes, and in some ways more rewarding. You're going to find out how much freaking fun it is to watch an individual that you've been coaching that's been struggling doing something finally achieve it. With you in hurdling, when that person finally 3 steps the full 10 hurdles and ends up with a PR, you're just as happy, if not more, as you're sprinting towards that damn finish line to go in. Like, you're going to love it. And we certainly have to have you back on and really pick the coach side's brain of you.
I also want to hear, because like it's so different coaching middle school and high school than in college. Like, Alex said, like those kids better 3-step. They are in college. For
sure.
Middle school, it's like you said earlier, like, you're jumping over the hurdle as high as you can. So it's just, I'm very, very curious to hear what it's like to coach athletes who are already kind of know what they're doing. And then it's got to be even harder at times. You're like, all right, this kid's already good. Like, how do I make sure that I can bring him to the whole next level? Whereas in middle school, it's kind of like, just run.
Enjoy getting that raw talent from high school that was just really naturally gifted, especially being sprints and hurdles coach. You're going to find that where they sit there and then you're like, all right, start out of blocks. And then they go and they put them in blocks and you're like, what the hell are you doing? Who taught you how to do that? Like, you're going to come across that. And, we're going to have you back on, because I would love to pick your brain. Maybe after this season, after your first full season as a coach, I would love to have you back on and just kind of talk about what you noticed as an athlete and stuff, and like kind of give us your coach's perspective, because, I was a sprint and middle distance coach over at Marist for a few years, volunteered for 2, paid for 2. And, it's just seeing some of these raw talents, like these guys that they ran 48 in high school, and you're sitting there and you're watching your technique and you're like, really? How did you do? Like, come on. Like, and then like you got, and just some of the resistance of some of these athletes, because they are extremely good. And now you're trying to tweak them, and you're going to find it's a roller coaster, but you're going to freaking love it. I'm telling you right now, you are going to enjoy watching their successes. And there's nothing like watching your athlete compete and, succeed. And there's nothing than being more crestfallen than watching some of your athletes fail. Like it's, and that's at every level too. That's at every level when you know what they could do, and you just see it on. And then I think the coach mode.
And I think, one of the hardest aspects as an ex-athlete is try not to compare their journey to your journey. Like, not everyone's going to have the same passion that you had, or the humbleness or the work ethic. And then as a coach, it's all right, what can I do to bring the the best out of each individual, because you almost can't coach, especially at that level, everyone the exact same way. Everyone has their own way of being motivated. So especially I would think more so at a college level. So I'm definitely want to also hear about that transition, because you're fresh out of it. Like you're still almost kind of in training and competitive mode, and, just making sure that you're giving them all that they can, but also understand that they're not you and they might not, learn in the same way that you did.
Yeah. And one thing, go ahead.
First practice. So we started in like September. And so the first practice, so I like hill training. And so I showed up, and, the track is like about 1,000 meters away from the hill. So I show up in like shorts and like kind of like gear, because I'm ready to run to the hill too. And some of the athletes, they probably haven't really seen me. Like, they've seen photos and stuff like that, so they don't really know what I look like that. And they're like, they told me afterwards, they're like, I can't believe you look like us. Like, you look about to run with us. I was like, yeah, like that's what I plan on bringing in. Like, setting the example, doing stuff like that. And so far it's been great. We've been training for about 7 weeks, and man, it's been amazing. It's a great group of people, and it's just been so fun so far. Coaches as well. Well, I've been great as well.
That's awesome.
Yeah. Enjoy it, man. Enjoy it. You're going to have a blast. I have just knowing you, knowing the man that you become. I think Hyatt's going to say the same thing. Super proud of you, dude. Everything you've accomplished. You represented Manchester, you represented your family, you represented everything, with the grace that you always have. We're really proud of you, dude. And I'm extremely confident that you're now going to be a successful coach. And I'm just pumped to see where you go. Hyatt, do you have anything else?
I was going to say, I think I'm most excited for Monmouth University.
Yeah,
they're getting a absolute gem of a human being who's going to work hard, and he's going to have, if there's ever a problem or an issue, he's going to work as hard as he can to find a solution. And they got an absolute perfect coach, and I can't wait. And I think it's really going to help them in the recruiting process. So congrats to Monmouth University. Congrats to you. And like Alex said, we are all proud to have, had any little inkling in any part of your life. And I also want to give a shout out to your family. Yes. Great people. They were at every meet. They were always supporting you, supporting everyone on a team. And that goes to a show because of the man that they have become. So shout out to your parents and your brother, Isaiah, and everyone who was ever involved in making you who you are. And it was just an honor to have you on. Yeah. Thanks for coming on, brother. We really appreciate it.
Yeah. Thanks you guys for bringing me on. This is great, man. It's great. Yeah, like you said earlier, being able to just talk track, like, being like track nerds like this. It's great.
Yeah. We'll have you on again. We appreciate it. And, as long as, athletes, prospective athletes, sprinters, hurdlers that are looking to go to a school, if Marist is on your short list, choose that first. But no, definitely go consider going to Monmouth. You're going to learn from one of the best, one of the best to ever do it in New Jersey at the high school level, and one of the best decathletes, at the college level. So go do that. Again, Jordan Torney, brand new coach over at Monmouth University, Manchester Hawk, one of the all-time greats there, recent graduate from UConn, national competitor in decathlon. Thanks again for coming on. Always appreciate, when we get to go down memory lane with some of our athletes. If you like what you heard talking on ovals, give us a like, share, follow, give us a subscription, rate us 5 stars on Spotify and iTunes, spread this word of mouth. And Jordan, I'm putting this on you. Send us PRs. Tell your guys, tell your girls, start listening to the show.
There we go.
We had Jonathan J. Marcus on 2 weeks ago. One of biggest coaches in the country. We're trying to get more and more people on. Any of your athletes interested in coming on?
Okay.
Jump on. And if they have any big PR, send them our way. We want to celebrate athletes. We want to celebrate runners, and we want to give them the shout outs that they might not get. So we're trying to really bring that out. So send us your PRs. All right.
Yeah. We'll get the cross country guys on for the PR.
Let's do it. All right, everyone. Thank you so much for listening. Have a good one all.